Okay, over to you, Mr. Chair.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Committee Adjustment for September 17th, 2024. The staff members in attendance, the committee members and staff in attendance tonight are Kevin Antonitis, Dylan Bailey is online, Daniel Collins, Fabio Billing, and myself, Adam Ottersted. Staff members present this evening are Walter Basic, Deputy Director of Planning, Dohara Abawarden, Administrative Coordinator. Live streaming. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals in the media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. The purpose of the application and relative correspondence of the applications will be heard, following which applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. To request a copy of the decision, please email Dohara Abawarden, Secretary-Treasurer at coa@grimsby.ca. The applicant, the Town of Grimsby, minister, or a specified person or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the date of giving notice under subsection 17 is completed for a consent application, and within 20 days of the date of decision for a minor variance application.
You don't keep it in the bathroom.
Thank you. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment. I think we just got some there on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions to the chair. Each participant will be provided 5 minutes to speak. Each participant may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. When you're called, please, we ask that you state your name and address for the record. Agencies commenting on the applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands and subject to the applications. So we go to disclosure of pecuniary interest. Do any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest with respect to the applications that are before us this evening? None. I have declared a non-pecuniary interest on application A312411 Lawrence, as I reside within the circulation area for the notice. That's been filed with the clerk, so we'll hear this application last, so I can be excused from the meeting and the discussion. I will not participate in the discussion or the voting on this application. The vice chair will take care of that part of the meeting. There's 0 withdrawals or adjournments, is correct? Okay, have the committee members had the opportunity to review the minutes from August 20th, 2024? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I have a motion here moved by Kevin, seconded by Fabia, resolved that the minutes of the meeting held on August 20th, 2024 be approved. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed, if any? That's carried. So tonight we have 6 applications, and the first one is going to be B0624 for 379 Ridge Road East. Dohara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just get the presentation up. Okay, so the purpose of this application is to sever 2.56 hectares of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 2 and be merged with the lands shown on the provided sketch as Part 3 and retain 5.03 hectares of land shown on the provided sketch as Part 1. This is an image of the site plan, which was circulated along with the notice of hearing. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions on site. And correspondence for this application has been received by these agencies, and I will summarize that correspondence to you now. Planning staff have no objection to the severance proposed by the applicant and support the conditions set out by the NEC through the conditional approval. In addition, the following conditions that usually apply to consent applications will apply. Number 1, that the applicant provide the Secretary Treasurer with deeds in triplicate for conveyance of the subject parcel, a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for the issuance of the certificate of consent. Number 2, that the final certificate fee payable to the Town of Grimsby be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. Number 3, that all conditions of consent be fulfilled within 2 years from the date of the notice of decision pursuant to subsection 5341 of the Planning Act, failing which this consent shall be deemed to be refused. And number 4, subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the severed land. Public Works staff have no comments or conditions. Niagara regional comments provided for the NEC application remain applicable to this consent application, as the configuration of the proposed boundary adjustment is the same. The summary of the comments provided for the NEC application state that Regional Growth Strategy and Economic Development staff does not object to the proposed NEC development permit application, provided town staff are satisfied that the proposed boundary adjustment can be considered for legal or technical reasons, and that NEC staff are satisfied that the application conforms to NEP policies. And NPCA had this to say: an NPCA regulated riverine valley exists to the north of the subject lots. Though the lot lines are proposed to intersect this feature, no new lots are proposed to be created. As no new lots are being created, and as both lots retain large developable envelopes, this office offers no objection to proposed adjustments at this location. Enbridge Gas does not object to the proposed applications. However, we reserve the right to amend or remove development conditions. This response does not signify an approval for the site development. Please always call before you dig, and they've given a web link for additional details. It is the responsibility of the applicant to verify the existing gas servicing does not encroach on more than one property when subdividing or severing an existing land parcel. Any service relocation required due to a severance would be at the cost of the property owner. And they've given an email address to contact them for any encroachments. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is the agent or applicant on this application here? You want to come to the podium and just give your name and address, or for the record, please? Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members, staff, public. My name is Peter DiUlio. I'm a registered professional planner with Metropolitan Consulting Inc. My address or office is 2255 Barton Street East in Hamilton, Unit 3B. Need postal code or anything? So, Mr. Chair, we've read all the comments. We have no issue. I mean, it took us 2 years to get an NEC permit, but that was more of a staffing issue than anything. And so we're just looking forward to getting to the finish line on this. The Picors are looking forward to selling off this land to their neighbor, and the neighbor is looking forward to being able to use that land. And then I think the Picors are looking at retiring and moving on.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? Seeing none, do we have a motion on the disposition of this application? Go ahead. Sorry, Dylan. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh,
Go ahead.
oh, thanks, Dylan. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find it resolved that consent application B0624 for 379 Ridge Road East to sever 2.56 hectares of land as Part 2 and be merged with the lands as Part 3 and retain 5.03 hectares of land as Part 1 be approved with conditions. And that's the conditions that was read out by the Secretary Treasurer in the introduction of this. Would anybody like me to read out the conditions? Okay. So approved with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a seconder on this motion? I'll second that. Okay, Kevin. Is there any further discussion on the motion from any of the committee members? No, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Opposed, if any? That's carried. Your application was approved. It's subject to the appeal period. Thank you. So next application is actually two that we're combining as a consent and a minor variance, B0524 and A32-24, 23 Park Road North, Dahara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first, we'll go over the consent application. The purpose of this application is to sever 481.6 square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as parcel 1 and to retain 532 square meters of land shown on the provided sketch as parcel 2. This is an image of the site plan which was circulated along with the notice of hearing. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. It's an aerial view of the current conditions on site. And these are the agencies that have provided correspondence regarding the consent application, and I will summarize that correspondence to you now. Planning staff have no objections to the approval of the severance proposed by the applicant, subject to the conditions below. Number 1, that the address change fee be submitted to the town of Grimsby for municipal addressing to be assigned to the severed lot. Number 2, that part 1 be dedicated as a public highway. Number 3, that concurrent minor variance application A3224 be approved with conditions. And in addition to these conditions, the usual conditions for a consent application that were read out for the previous application would also apply. Public Works staff have the following comments. Town staff note this application is being reviewed concurrently with minor variance application A3224 for 23 Park Road North. A town services permit will also be required for installation of services once the plan is approved. An entrance permit from the Public Works Department will be required for the construction of all new driveway entrances. All proposed entrances shall be reviewed and approved by town staff and be constructed in accordance with town standards. They also have 2 conditions. Town staff will require site servicing plan showing both the existing and proposed site services for water, storm, and sanitary for both parcels. The plan is to include location, site, material, grade, inverts, etc. from the municipal main to the building phase for all services. Please be advised that only 1 service connection per lot is permitted per town standards. Service locations need to be field verified by the applicant, locations and elevations. And the second condition, town staff will require lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that stormwater runoff will not negatively impact nor rely upon neighboring properties. The plan shall include all existing and proposed downspout discharge locations, all hardscape surfaces, and all physical features including decks, trees, walkways, pools, etc. for both existing and proposed. Enbridge Gas has the same comments that were read out for the previous application apply to this consent application as well. If anyone would like to hear those comments again, I can read them out. And finally, the region and NPCA have no comments regarding the consent application. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is the agent or applicant for this application right speak? Okay, just come to the name and give your podium, give your name, give your name and an address, I guess, of your firm at the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jared Marcus. I'm a principal and senior project manager with Arcadis in Hamilton. With me tonight is Isabel Illigan. She's a junior planner with our firm, and she's going to speak to the application briefly. Our corporate address is 360 James Street North in Hamilton.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a brief presentation prepared where we did speak to the minor variance as well.
Yes, I'm just getting that up for you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So our subject lands has frontage on Park Road North, and to the west is Peachtree Lane. Our zone is designated low-density residential and zoned residential detached 3. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, the purpose of the consent is to sever the subject lands and to create one new lot fronting onto Peachtree Lane. Parcel 1, which will front onto Peachtree Lane, will have a lot area of 482 square meters, whereas Parcel 2, which will remain with frontage on Park Road North, will have a lot area of 532 square meters. Next slide, please. To facilitate the proposed consent, minor variances will be required for Parcel 1, which is to be severed. We do require variances for the minimum lot area, a reduction, an increase to the maximum lot coverage, a reduction to the minimum front yard, and also a reduction to the minimum rear yard. Next slide, please. For the lands to be retained, which we do request a minimum lot area reduction, as well as an increased maximum lot coverage, which is a result of the increased building envelope on Parcel 1, as well as a reduction to the minimum rear yard to recognize the existing detached garage structure. We do respectfully request staff to approve these applications, given that the proposed applications maintain the character of the low-density residential neighborhood. As well, they do not cause any adverse effects to the surrounding properties in terms of massing, shadow, and privacy.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee on either of the applications? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this application or the applications? Okay, come on up. Just give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Josh Vandermeulen. I live at 125 Peachtree Lane, the property adjacent to the Severance to the north. I'd like to thank Council and Chair for offering me the opportunity to speak. I have two main concerns regarding this. Number one is the easement that exists between the two lots. It's a concern for me because of the grade. I don't know how the grade is going to be adjusted for the new property and how that's going to affect the easement. We have services running through the easement that are very shallow. So if the easement needs to be removed or re-leveled or something, I'm concerned that it will be at an expense to us, or it will affect our water drainage. The second issue that I have is previously behind us, a 2.5-story structure was built on the property line. The building permit for this individual, this is the house behind us, the building permit that they attained was for a garage. It turned into a fully occupied 2.5-story house. It's built on the property line. It has windows facing us. The water spills onto our property and our neighbor's property. There are no eaves troughs on the house, and it is built on slab. I came to the building department and asked them about it, and they had said that some of the bylaws were overlooked to allow the project to move forward. I'm concerned that this project will have the same issues as the last one did. This house built on our property line significantly impacts the value of our house. And I just want to be assured that this will not be the case with the new build. Thank you for taking my comments.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else in the audience wish to speak to the application? Seeing none, would the agent like to respond to some of those comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the first item mentioned by the speaker was that there's an easement between the lots. We had a legal survey done for the property lands. I don't recall seeing an easement there, but if there is an easement between the lots, that would have to be respected. We wouldn't be able to unilaterally remove an easement. If there's existing services there, again, those would have to be respected. But I don't believe that there's any easement on our subject lands that would be encumbered by the adjacent lands, so we wouldn't be touching any easement through our proposal. There were concerns about future house construction, future grading, et cetera. You heard from I'm going to butcher the name, I'm sorry, Dilhar. That there's conditions with any approval for servicing plans and grading plans. So those will be done by a qualified consulting engineer, and staff and the region, potentially the region, would review those and approve them. So typically, when you're doing a grading plan for a new infill lot, we have to retain all drainage on our lands. We're not allowed to continue to spill drainage over onto an adjacent property. So if there's some kind of existing problem where drainage is coming from the subject lands, then we would have to rectify that and contain that drainage within our property. We can't speak to, there's problems with another house, but our subject property has minimum required side yards of 1.8 meters. We haven't asked for any variances to those today, so we would be respecting those in the future. So there'll be no house built immediately on a property line that would address or impact the drainage there. We would have 1.8 meters between the future dwelling and the northerly lot line, and then a swale would be built between the house and the lot line to accommodate that drainage. So I'm confident that through the proper approval conditions that any potential drainage issues would be rectified.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe I'll just get staff just to comment on the other property, just because there was some the bylaws being overlooked. I don't know if that's the case. I don't think so, but.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm not familiar with that at all, so I'd have to look into the files and to permits that were issued and see what happened there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? Seeing none, is there any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there a motion on these applications? I guess we'll start with the consent one first. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do first the motion on the consent, and then there's a presentation on the minor variance as well. Yeah, we'll do the presentation, and then we'll just do the motions as a package, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the minor variance application, A3224, the purpose of this application is to facilitate the severance of land on the subject property by permitting the reduced lot areas, to increase the potential building envelope for the construction of a future single detached dwelling on the severed lands, that is parcel 1, and to legalize the location of the existing garage and overall lot coverage on the retained lands, which is part 2. These are the variances requested. For parcel 1, the lands to be severed, to permit a minimum lot area of 475 square meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum lot area of 550 square meters is required. To permit a maximum lot coverage of 45% for the severed lot, whereas a maximum lot coverage of 25% is permitted. To permit a minimum front yard of 6 meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum front yard of 9.15 meters is required. And to permit a minimum rear yard of 7.5 meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum rear yard of 7.9 meters is required. And the variances requested for parcel 2, which is the lands to be retained, to permit a minimum lot area of 525 square meters for the retained lot, whereas a minimum lot area of 550 square meters is permitted. To permit a maximum lot coverage of 30% for the retained lot, whereas a maximum lot coverage of 25% is permitted. And to permit a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 0.4 meters between the existing accessory building on the retained lot, whereas a minimum setback of 1.3 meters is required. And this is an image of the site plan, which was circulated along with the notice of hearing. And and correspondence for the minor variance application has been received by these agencies, and I will summarize that for you now. Planning staff have no objections to the minor variances proposed by the applicant, subject to the condition below, that final approval of concurrent consent application B0524 be obtained. Public Works staff have no concerns or conditions. The region has the following comment: no review required if servicing is confirmed to be from Peachtree Lane. However, should services come from Park Road North, then regional staff will require review of the consent. And I have personally confirmed with the Public Works that servicing will be from Peachtree Lane. The NPCA has no comments in regards to this application. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the agent want to add any further comments? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the committee who has any questions or comments? Dylan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two quick things on that. First of all, the rear yard setback of, I believe it was 0.4 meters versus the 1.3, which is standard. It just seems like a very small distance, and so I just, I just wanted to point that out. There's not a lot of room. Should there be any need for, servicing that accessory building, it seems a bit tight in my opinion. But if staff is comfortable with it, I'm prepared to support it. The other thing, perhaps to the agent, the minor variance about the lot coverage from 25% to 45%, is that just a function of the new lot size and the size of a sort of newly built modern dwelling would be? Is that just the lot is of a specific size, and I just don't want to sort of have a monster build beside existing homes, because it will be closer to the street.
Okay, thank you. Jared?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the lot coverage is a product of the reduced lot area, as well as representative of the potential building envelope. My clients don't have current building plans, so it allows flexibility. You could have a single detached dwelling, a one-story bungalow single detached dwelling. You could have a modern two-story dwelling, but we don't know the plans yet. This allows some flexibility for my clients in their designs, but it is a product of both those things, both the smaller lot area as well as the potential building envelope.
Okay, thank you. I think there's also a question about the rear yard setback.
Yes. You, Mr. Chair, the rear yard setback, or the rear yard setback was to an existing accessory structure that's located kind of in the middle of the property as it sits today, and which would be abutting the future lot line. So, it exists today as it is. There's no servicing needs to that structure, but we think that 0.4 would be sufficient to be able to access that if there were repair needs to that building.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments for the agent from the committee? Okay, anyone in the public wish to speak to this? Yeah, please come to the podium. Thanks.
Thank you, Josh Vandermillen again from 125 Peachtree Lane. The question I have for the agent is, as far as the variance at the back of the lot, there is a flood plain there, and that's why the easement was constructed in the first place. There's a storm sewer at the back of the easement. So those grades historically for our landscaping or anyone else's, we've not been able to touch them or do any sort of work there because of the issue with occasional flooding. Again, I just want to ask about the grade and if that's going to be affected with the lot variance at the back being so small. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else from the audience who wants to speak? Okay. Jared, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer the speaker's question through you, There was a preliminary grading plan that was submitted with the application to town staff and reviewed by the engineers. It's preliminary at this point, but they didn't identify any concerns with it. Again, as a condition of the severance approval, we are required to do a final detailed grading plan, which would identify all those specific grades. We do have to match existing property line grades. We're not allowed to alter grading or drainage on adjacent lands without approval of that adjacent landowner as well as the town. So I would expect that there would be no change to the grades in those locations. And if there's some kind of flooding or floodplain issues, I'm confident that through the staff review of the future grading plan that those concerns would be addressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, I guess we'll move first to the consent application B005-24. Do I have a mover and a motion? Dylan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that consent application B05-24 for 23 Park Road North to sever plus or minus 481.6 square meters of land as parcel 1 and to retain plus or minus 532.0 square meters of land as parcel 2 be approved as it meets the 4 tests with the 9 conditions as previously read out by the committee secretary. And just to highlight number 9 of that, the 9 of 9 conditions does speak specifically to lot grading and a drainage plan, which in my mind would address any concerns by the homeowner from Peachtree Lane. So that is a condition of approval that I would stress. So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. To the agent, do you want the conditions read out, or are you familiar with everything? Okay, thanks. Do I have a seconder on this motion? Dan? Okay, all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Opposed, if any? That was approved, and it's subject to the appeal period. So next will be for the minor variance for A32-24. Do I have a mover and a motion on this application? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that minor variance application A3224 for 23 Park Road, parcel 1, lands to be severed, to permit a minimum lot area of 475 square meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum lot area of 550 square meters is required as per section 721, table 11, in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To permit a maximum lot coverage of 45% for the severed lot, whereas a maximum lot coverage of 25% is permitted as per section 721, table 11 of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To permit a minimum front yard of 6 meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum front yard of 9.15 meters is required as per section 721, table 11 of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To permit a minimum rear yard of 7.5 meters for the severed lot, whereas a minimum rear yard of 7.9 meters is required as per section 721, table 11 of zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. For parcel 2, lands to be retained, to permit a minimum lot area of 525 square meters for the retained lot, whereas a minimum lot area of 550 square meters is permitted as per section 721, table 11 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To permit a maximum lot coverage of 30% for the retained lot, whereas a maximum lot coverage of 25% is permitted as per section 721, table 11 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. To permit a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 0.4 meters between the existing accessory building on the retained lot, whereas a minimum setback of 1.3 meters is required as per section 4.18H, table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended. be approved with conditions. And, well, the condition is that final approval of concurrent consent application be attained, which has been, so I'm just then going to say approved, subject to the appeal period for the consent application.
Okay, thank you for all that. Is there a seconder on this motion? Fabia? Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed, if any? So the application was approved. It's subject to the 20-day appeal period. Thank you. So next application we have is A29-24 for 215 Mountain Road. Dahara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, sorry, ma'am, not yet. Not yet.
So the purpose of this application is to legalize a pre-existing single-sided, indirectly illuminated ground sign at a residential zone property with a home occupation. The variances requested are to permit a maximum face area of 4 square meters, whereas a maximum face area of 0.6 square meters is permitted. To permit a maximum height above ground of 1.42 meters, whereas a maximum height above ground of 1.2 meters is permitted, and to permit an illumination of indirect floodlighting, whereas no illumination is permitted. This is the plan that they have in mind, which was circulated along with the notice of hearing. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions on site, although the sign is pre-existing up front. And these are the agencies that have provided comments, and I will summarize those comments for you now. Planning staff have no objections to the approval of the minor variances. The variance meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is desirable and constitutes appropriate development of the subject site, and is considered minor in nature. Public Works staff have no comments or conditions. The region and the NPCA have no comments in regards to this application. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is the agent or the applicant for this? Sorry. Is the agent or the applicant? Oh, okay.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Tanya Andrews,
Go ahead.
the agent for the applicant.
Yeah, could you just give your name and, I guess, firm address for the record, please?
Yes, so my name is Tanya Andrews and the firm address is 12 Bel Air Road in Brantford, Ontario.
Okay, do you have any further questions or comments about the staff report, any of the comments raised, or the application itself?
It seems that it is in favor. We were just going to state that the main purpose is, as mentioned in the letter provided, that the main purposes of the sign is, and the structure is for safety and visibility, with the actual business copy itself being less than 0.4 meters squared of the entire area. We feel that the safety aspect of it is the main point. The sign, the structure is covering the 2-foot gas pipe that you could see in the image of the home itself on the property. So of course, drawing the blockage for that, for anybody who could be cutting the grass or the kids playing on the property. The indirect floodlighting of the house numbers, given that it is a dark rural road, any visitors or, God forbid, emergency vehicles would need that visibility to know where they need to go and to access. And of course, with no adverse effects or to the neighboring properties, and then it being compatible with the area and the property itself and not out of character of the surrounding area, we were hoping that the city staff would be in favor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the committee for the agent? Seeing none, anyone from the audience wish to speak to this application? Ma'am, just, yep. And you could just give your name and address for the record,
Yes,
please.
thank you. My name is Kathleen. I have trouble with my voice, sorry. Kathleen Moswich at 207 Mountain Road next door. And I have a question. Thank you to the chairman and the committee for allowing me to be able to. The applicant, is she the homeowner of this location?
I'll actually defer that question to the agent.
Apologies, what was that question?
Is the applicant the homeowner of this house?
The applicant is, yes, I am speaking on behalf of the applicant.
I asked a question. Is she the homeowner?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, the applicant is the homeowner. I am the agent on behalf of the applicant.
And how long has she lived there?
Sorry, ma'am, could you just direct questions to me and then we'll have the agent
Okay.
address them?
How long has those people been there?
Okay, which other concerns do you have? Because I'm just
The
gonna ask
house
them.
is
Yeah.
built in what year?
Okay. And other questions?
I'd like to know, when did the city or the town give them a permit to put the sign up to begin with? I was not aware of it. This is a residential area, not a commercial or industrial or a farm. It's a residential.
Okay. Any other questions or?
I have many, but I want answers first.
Okay. So we'll just go, we'll start with, I guess, to the agent. I don't know when the house was built, that might be relevant, but to address the delegate. And any question about the sign permit, I guess, in the first place, and concerns about being a residential versus commercial.
Of course. So the house was built approximately 3 years ago, and the people who own the home built the home, and they still live there. The sign itself is not permitted yet. That is the purpose of this variance. It was erected, I guess, technically illegally. We are seeking to gain approval for the sign itself right now. The sign, I say in quotations, the structure itself in its entirety is blocking a 2-foot gas pipe that is sticking out of the house, or sorry, out of the ground in front of the house. The sign is directly in front of it. The sign, the business copy itself, is only 0.44 meters squared portion of the entire structure of the sign face. So that is itself well within the bylaw. Other than that, the numbers 215 are on the structure, which is the house number with indirect flood lighting for emergency vehicles and for those accessing the property. You cannot see the house numbers on the house as it is set back so far. So, yeah. I'm
Okay,
not
thank
sure
you.
if that answers it, but that is what it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, thank you
Excuse
very
me,
much.
we have, on Mountain Road, we have the fire posts, and they have the number on it. And that's what everybody goes by, is the number of our signs on the highway. If they can't see it, too bad. That somebody has problems with their vision, not the sign. The sign is already on the highway.
Okay,
And I would
thanks.
like to make a motion
Okay,
to request approval of a denial. I am the next door neighbor, and there's many things going on, but it'll have to be looked after at another time. This isn't the place for it.
okay, thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the committee for the delegate? Seeing none, is there any? Yeah,
I have paperwork here, and it says no, and I say no, as I'm the only one here that's affected by it, and I say no.
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? Oh, Dylan, you got a question?
Yeah, no, I just have a comment. Just looking at the measurements that have been provided, doing a bit of math, that it's, I'm not going to quibble. You say 0.44 meters squared. I look at added it, and it's about 0.8 meters squared for the actual text versus the sign is quite large. I think that regardless of the lot sizes and the sizes of the home, I don't really buy the arguments of, for safety, etc. The fire posts are there in order to cover up a gas, a gas meter or pole or whatever that is. Landscaping can certainly do that. I must admit, I am not in favor of this minor variance to have a business advertised in front of a home, especially given the entire size of the sign itself, regardless of the text, itself. So, I think that those, that the arguments do provide some rationale, but I don't think that it's appropriate for the property. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a question to staff. Is there other examples of where there's commercial signage on residential properties that you know of?
Yes, we have the garage at the corner of Kemp, and we have the golf course, and we also have, I can't remember, the rental trailers, and they're under the grandfather law.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm a great-grandmother, so there we go.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions or comments from the committee? Fabia, go ahead. Sorry, could you turn your microphone?
Oh, thanks. There we go. I have one question. Does the sign have anything on it except for the numbers of the house?
To the agent, you want to answer that?
Yes, of course. The sign has the numbers, and then it has the words Design Co. and Interior Design Firm. And the 0.44 meters that I speak of is the box that would be drawn around Design Co. and the Interior Design Firm.
Okay, so I think I saw those words. So they're the only words that are on the front of the sign, and the numbers? And the
That
numbers?
is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there a motion and a mover on this application?
I'll move.
Go ahead.
Regarding resolve that minor variance application A2924 for 215 Mountain Road to permit a maximum face area of 4 square meters, whereas a maximum face area of 0.6 square meters is permitted as per section 415FI in zoning bylaw 1445 is amended to permit a maximum legal height above ground of 1.42 meters, whereas the maximum height above ground of 1.2 meters is permitted as per section 415FII in zoning bylaw 1445 is amended to permit an illumination of indirect flood lighting, whereas no illumination is permitted as per section 415F in zoning bylaw 1455 as amended be approved, as it meets the 4 tests as set out in the Planning Act.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder on that? Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Opposed, if any? Yeah, the application was approved. It's subject to a 20-day appeal period. Thank you. So the next application is for A30-24, 6 Hunter Road, Dahara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose of this application is to permit the location of a recently constructed 28.6 square meter accessory building. The variances requested are to permit a minimum setback from the interior side lot line of 0.6 meters, whereas a minimum setback of 3 meters from the interior side lot line is required, and to permit a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 0.6 meters, whereas a minimum setback of 3 meters from the rear lot line is required. This is an image of the site plan, which was circulated along with the notice. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. These are the current conditions on site. These are the agencies that have provided comments, and I will summarize those comments for you now. Planning staff have no objections to the approval of the minor variances. The variance meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is desirable and constitutes appropriate development of the subject site, and is considered minor in nature. Public Works staff offer the following comments. Public Works staff notes any swale within the side yard setbacks may be challenging to design or construct due to the constraints. The typical standard for a swale is 0.9 meters in width. However, this will still need to be approved through the lot grading and drainage plan requirement. Please be advised that as per town standards, the required side yard swale width is 0.9 meters minimum. Staff require that the side yard swale remain unobstructed and unencumbered. That includes hardscaped pathways. And they have one condition. Town staff will require lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating the existing drainage patterns for the lot and at a minimum 5 meters beyond the property line. The location and direction for all proposed downspout discharge points shall be shown on the plan. The region and the NPCA have no comments in regards to this application. Furthermore, we have received 2 letters of support towards this application from Mrs. Henry Vanderwint at 4 Hunter Road, which was attached to the agenda, and from Emily and Glenn Thompson at 8 Hunter Road, which I will read out now. We are writing this letter regarding the minor variance notice of hearing, application A3024, we received for a recently constructed structure at 6 Hunter Road. As per the notice, the building is under review due to the distance requirements from the property lines. Our property is located at 8 Hunter Road, which is adjacent to the property of Joseph and Elizabeth Diletti that is currently under review. Joseph and Elizabeth are fantastic people, excellent neighbors, and exemplary town of Grimsby residents. We are lucky to have them on Hunter Road and in the town of Grimsby. Please forward this letter to the Committee of Adjustment to advise that we are in full support of the completion of their structure and advocate for their application approval. Should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant or owners on this application here that wish to speak to it? Oh, there you go, online. Okay, go ahead. Do you just elaborate on the application, maybe address any of the comments?
Sure, yeah. I guess the first comment is I didn't write that letter. That was just read from my neighbor, although it sounds like we did. The only comment we really have is with respect to the condition for the lot drainage and grading plan. Lot grading and drainage plan. The grading is not affected at all. It's not a slab on grade. There's no full foundation. So the only thing that's sort of obstructing the grade that was there are 12-inch concrete piers that are 6 feet apart. The actual bottom of the building floats above. At the closest, it's about an inch above grade, and at the highest, it's, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 inches. So there's been no change to the drainage of the property. And I know that because it's been built partially for about 3 months. We've had all those storms, and there's been no issues, no flooding, no pooling, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe town staff, I know it's more a public works question, maybe you can address that.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I didn't hear a question.
It was in regard to the condition of the lot grading and drainage plan.
What I heard was a statement saying that there is no issue with the grading. So is the question, should the condition be implemented into the
Correct.
minor variance?
Yes.
If it's simple and straightforward, it should be something that should be easily rectified through the condition, and they could easily clear the condition. It may involve a site visit to demonstrate how the building does not have any impacts. But whenever there's a building proposed relatively close to side and rear lot lines, that's a standard condition that's requested, just so that we ensure that there is no impact on a neighboring property. That's why that condition is there. And if it's a simple answer, then it should be cleared simply also.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee for the applicant? Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. This is probably back to you, Walter. I'm seeing, just reading interior side lot line of 0.6 meter setback. Can you explain how an overhang would be affected by that? Because from what I'm seeing, the overhang would go to, the pictures I saw or what I saw, the overhang goes right to the property line. So I'm just wondering if that's being addressed in this, or if the overhang does not call into question in this one.
Yeah, overhangs for accessory buildings are permitted to encroach 0.25 meters into the required yard. So in this particular case, if the setback is 0.6 meters, the overhang that's permitted is 0.25 into that 0.6. So we wouldn't be in a we wouldn't be in a position to confirm where the lot lines are, but we would be able to measure from the structure itself. So that is a zone. A variance wasn't requested for an overhang reduction or an increase in the overhang. So if it doesn't comply, then that would have to be adjusted on site to comply.
Through you, Chair, that's kind of what I was getting at, so that the applicant knows what kind of what's at stake with the overhang, that they can come back for another variance or cut it back. That's correct. And on my math, it's 9 7/8 inches would be the total overhang.
Does that translate into 0.25 meters? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Dylan, did you have a question or? Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments from the committee for the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this? Seeing none, is there a motion to move on this application? Go ahead, Dylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Be it resolved that minor variance application A30-24 for 6 Hunter Road to permit a minimum setback from the interior side lot lines of 0.6 meters, whereas a minimum setback of 3 meters from the interior side lot line is required per section 4.18, table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, and to permit a minimum setback from the rear lot lines of 0.6 meters, whereas a minimum setback of 3 meters from the rear lot line is required as per section 4.18, table 2 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, be approved as it meets the 4 tests with the following condition, with one condition that town staff will require a lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating the existing drainage patterns for the lot and at a minimum 5 meters beyond property line. The location and direction of all proposed downspout discharge point shall be shown on the plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a seconder on that motion? Fabia? Any questions or comments or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed, if any. So the application was approved. It's subject to a 20-day appeal period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, carried. Okay, so the next application is going to be A3124 for 11 Lawrence Avenue. I've declared a conflict of interest on this one, so I'll be handing the chair over to Dan.
Okay, thank you. As he said, now up we have A3124. Could I have the secretary please read the presentation on this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose of this application is to construct a fence with a maximum height that is over the permitted height. The variance is requested, or the variance requested rather, to permit a maximum privacy fence height of 3.048 meters, whereas a fence height of 2 meters is permitted. This is an image of the site plan, which was circulated along with the notice. This is an image of the neighborhood for context. This is an aerial view of the current conditions on site, and the fence is to be erected where this thicker blue line is. The proposed fence, rather. And these are the agencies that have commented on the application, and I will summarize those comments for you now. Planning staff have no objections to the approval of the minor variance. The variance meets the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is desirable and constitutes appropriate use of the land as it would assist in the maintenance of privacy for the subject and neighboring lands without creating a significant negative impact on the neighboring properties and is considered minor in nature. Public Works staff have no comments or conditions. The region and the NPCA have no comments in regards to this application. Furthermore, we have received 2 letters from neighbors, one of which favored the application from Donald and Annette Gibbons at 9 Lawrence Avenue and was attached to the agenda, and the other which is a letter of opposition from Elise and Jerry Bulligan at 121 Terrace Drive, and they are here in person, I believe, to speak to the application. And if not, I can read the letter out. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is the applicant here that could come to the lectern to speak to this application, please? And please state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Pardon me? What do you do? Oh, it's on. Oh, okay. My name is John Wolf. I reside at the property 11 Lawrence Avenue. I did not receive 2 of those letters of correspondence, nor were they in the agenda that I signed into today.
So one of them was attached, which is the letter from Annette Gibbons.
Yes, I got that one.
The one in favor, and the other one was not attached to the agenda, but I have a copy of it here if you would like one. But that particular property owner is also present, as they informed me, and they will be speaking their comments at the meeting.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, sure. Do you want it now?
Sure. The reason for the application is to establish some degree of privacy. The development to the east of the subject property, perhaps I should have spotted it, but it wasn't as anticipated. It was built on a much higher grade, and the buildings I would not describe as bungalows. They're 2.5 stories high. The bottom line is the floor of the ground floor and the floor of the walkout deck is at within tolerable limits the same height as the top of my current fence. So to establish some degree of privacy, I'm seeking the increase, the allowed increase. First, we disagree since the height will not be constant with fences shared between other neighbors.
Sorry, are you reading the letter that was
Yeah.
in opposition? We'll let them speak to it. So they're here. So for right now, we'll just have your perspective of the application. Then we'll go to the committee. After the committee has some questions, we'll go to the public, and then they can read it out, and we can address it at that time.
Okay,
Yeah, then you'll have a chance to respond after it's been read out.
all right.
Thank you.
So the report of the Town of Grimsby Planning Department was in favor on all 4 of the tests. There are 3 other parties on the east side of Lawrence Avenue that have sought this request and have been successful in receiving it. That would be about it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee members at this moment? Okay, I see none, so I'll open it up to the public or any other agencies. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this? Yep. If you'd like to come to the lectern and just state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Mike Carrington. I live at 123 Terrace Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, committee. So for context, our entire backyard backs onto a portion of the applicant, Mr. Wolf's backyard. So there's, sure, yes, okay, if you have the picture, that'd be great. I sent in a couple pictures. So I have 3 concerns with the fence. Number 1 is with these new properties, we have a very small backyard. This fence or fence extension is going to make our backyard feel greatly enclosed, and it's going to take away space and sunlight. The second point I have, and this is actually a picture from our backyard, our understanding is that the builder, when they built these houses, they actually were required to build a fence, and that's what you can see at the bottom of the screen here. So on the very bottom, that's the fence that was installed by the builder. You can see there's a second fence, and that's the applicant's original fence as well. And then you can also see there's an extension, almost like a partition. That's this variance already under construction. So if you look at it from our backyard, we're actually looking at 4 different things, right? So we're looking at our fence, which was required by the builder. We're looking at the original fence from the applicant. Then it's like an extension, right? So we're looking at the extension of the fence. And then number 4, we're also looking at the trees, the shrubbery, which have there's been more put in since the fence. So it's going to be a real eyesore for us to look at 2 or 3 different fences plus the trees put in. The third concern we have is that there's now 2 fences in our backyard, essentially. Our understanding is that our fence is, it's very generous. It's put with like a couple feet off of our property line, but there's actually a foot or so in between these 2 fences. That's going to be a great place for animals to breed. There's already weeds coming up from in between the 2 fences, and it's just going to, the extension of this fence is just going to increase our concerns. So it's, a combination of closing in our backyard even more. It's a major eyesore. And then, having 2 fences there isn't ideal for critters, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the, sorry, I didn't catch your name. Mike. I don't see the ground here. I don't see the grade on this picture. How high is your fence above your grade? Like the builder had to construct that, so.
It's just like what I would consider standards, maybe 6 feet, but it's within the regular.
So it's 6 feet above your backyard grade, like the back of your property?
Yeah.
So the requested variance is, I think is, let's call it 10 feet, right? It's going from 6 meters to, 2 meters to 3 meters, so it's another 3 feet?
Yeah.
So you're saying that fence will effectively be 10 feet on your side of the property?
So that so what we'll see from the ground up on our property, we're gonna see 6 feet of our fence, and then we're gonna see 3 feet of the extension, and then the shrubbery above that.
So maybe a question to town staff, is the fence measured from the highest point of the grade? So on which side of the fence are you measuring? I guess on their side? So the requested variance is from his grade level to the top of the new fence. Is that correct then?
You have the same, like it's a flat flat, sorry, it's a flat ground that they're both built on. There's not much of a difference between the base of either fence.
Because when I was there, it appeared that like you were saying, the ground level, John, if I've heard you correctly, the ground level of their house is about 6 feet high already. The ground floor
of their house.
The ground floor
And the walkout deck
is already 6 feet up.
is already at the top of my fence.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that for the one next to this gentleman,
Yeah.
because I can see it.
It is what you would call a lookout house, so, yeah. And that's unfortunate. We respect their right for privacy, but that's how the house was built, and
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of the gentleman at the podium?
Yeah, go ahead, Dylan. Thank you.
Yeah, just a question of the pictures that were shown of the fence. Where are you taking those from? Is that your back deck? Is that on grade? Where is that?
basically from the height of my floor. Yeah. My ground floor.
Okay.
It's the height of my ground floor, yeah.
Right. Okay, so you walk out and you sort of look down then onto their property because of the grade.
So from there, you immediately walk down, and it doesn't look like that from.
I think the question is,
Yeah.
the view
Yeah, it's from the ground
this picture
floor.
is from the ground.
Ground floor.
Not from the deck.
Not from the
So
ground,
deck's
from the
even
ground
higher.
floor. No, that's the deck. There's not really a deck.
Okay.
It's the landing, yeah,
The ground floor, not the basement, because it's a walkout basement.
correct.
That's what.
It's
they
a
need to
lookout,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, so I viewed it from Mr. Wolf's backyard, not yours, so, but now I get it, this picture's helpful.
Thank you. So I heard Mike say that you feel closed in. It's an eyesore to have too many things to look at, two fences and the shrubbery, and then the potential for animal and weeds between the fence. Now, I think that's going to happen anyway now with two fences. But I want to give Mr. Wolf the opportunity to speak to any of those issues if you'd like to. Oh, I'm sorry. Dylan has his hand up. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. The gentleman mentioned that the builder has built the fences within, a number of feet within their lot lines. I mean, again, I know the town can't verify that. I find that a little surprising, to be very honest. And as well, I know that, when we talk about the two fences and to the, I know it's a piddly thing, but I know that is there also not a bylaw or regulation about two fences being so far back from each other, especially when there's a pool? I remember I went through this as well about potentially building things, but then there was something about two fences abutting each other on two different lots. So I just wasn't sure if there was anything that complicates this matter and would have to deal with this sort of no man's land in between.
Shall we address that question to town staff?
Please.
Yeah, Walter, is there any regulations about a double fence with a quote unquote no man's land in between?
No, I'm not aware of any regulation. Fences can be built on the property line with the agreement of both parties. If there is no agreement, then the individual property owners can build whatever fence they want on their side. I recall recently there was a discussion about the very same issue on Park Road South, or at the base of the escarpment, for a minor variance for a fence height. Similar issues there and here. Again, you have one property that's relatively high, overlooking into the privacy of another neighbor's property. And again, the purpose of the fence is to provide privacy. That was the reason for staff support. As the photographs illustrate, the view from the backyards like the existing fence doesn't provide any privacy to the neighbor's property, because you can see the pool in the applicant's backyard at grade level. So the fence doesn't really provide any opportunity for privacy, which is really the whole point of a fence, other than providing a secure area in the backyard.
Any further questions?
Sorry, one more item. The applicant is required, because he has a pool in the backyard, he's required to have an enclosure with self-closing, self-latching gates of a minimum height. I think it's only 5 feet that's required, but he's required to maintain his own fence for the pool enclosure. That's the only regulation that I can think of.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn it to Mr. Wolf for comments, I'd like to ask the committee if they have any more comments before I do so.
I have one, Mr. Chair. If we've heard from someone in opposition, but I think we just kind of glossed over, there's a letter of support that could be read, unless they're going to speak to it directly. I don't know if they're here, but they do address, because I think this concern's been raised and will probably be raised along the street more, and there's a request for a fee reduction or a waiver of the fee, although I don't believe they're the applicant, but perhaps the excerpts of this letter be read at this point, just to balance the viewpoints.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Annette Gibbons, and I, along with my husband Donald Gibbons, are providing you with our written comments regarding the request for fence variance by the applicant John Wolf, located at 11 Lawrence Avenue, our neighbor directly residing to the south of us. I would like to start by quoting Robert Frost, "Good fences make good neighbors," and we fully support the requested variance, therefore ask the Committee of Adjustment to approve the requested variance, waive and return the associated fees required for this variance. In our opinion, privacy and overlook issues were not properly addressed during the public open house and preliminary meetings regarding the new subdivision located at 314 Main Street East, Brandhaven Terrace, and is an ongoing concern for the Lawrence Avenue residents affected by the abutting new lots, as evident through this third request for fence height variance. It is my understanding the finished maximum height of the houses built, as well as the finished grade height, may be more suited for the planning department and bylaw. However, we feel it is very important to include with our comments here. Our entire neighborhood made our concerns well known to council and the planning department with written comments and delegations from the first opportunity during the public open house in April 2019 and public meetings. The application of the draft plan of subdivision. No, it's okay. Thanks. And associated zoning bylaw amendment through the staff report recommended that the height is limited to a single story facing the Lawrence Avenue lots and then permitted to 2 stories facing the internal roadway, which was approved by council. Reference report number PA 2129, maximum height on the west wall, 1 story, but may increase to 2 stories where that portion of the dwelling face a public road or side yard. Windows, no second floor windows are permitted to face west on lots 2 to 16. It was our understanding through the stated intention the Lawrence Avenue transitional area were to be bungalows of 1 story, that is 10 feet at the back, and 2 stories at the front, 20 feet. It appears that the built houses are actually 2.5 story, that is 25 feet, to 3 story, that is 30 feet plus buildings. This brings into question a zoning bylaw non-conformity issue on all lots abutting the Lawrence Avenue residence, and we request confirmation of conformity that all lots have met the required height allowance restriction. Further to this, throughout the approval process, Lawrence Avenue residents had concerns regarding grading and stormwater. We requested copies of several public documents, which included the Stormwater Master Plan, However, they were not provided by the Planning Department nor Public Works. In my opinion, if the Stormwater Master Plan or the house lot scaled 3 to 32 inches equals 1 to 0 inches of the houses had been provided when requested, before council approved the associated amendments, it would be clear the grading of the new homes would elevate the lots in such a way that our privacy concerns and overlook would be considered an encroachment on our backyard enjoyment and privacy. As quoted from the memorandum from Walter Basic regarding minor variance 314 Main Street East, A23-22, dated June 15, 2022, the intent of the maximum fence height provision is to protect privacy. It appears though the proposed finished elevations of portions of lots 10, 11, and 12 will be approximately 1 meter higher than the properties to the west along Lawrence Avenue. Accordingly, staff have concluded that the proposed higher fence will help attain its intended function to protect the privacy of the abutting lots to the west. I would also like to note it appears the original grade located at 314 Main Street is significantly higher, so much so when driving along the new internal road of the new subdivision and looking west toward Lawrence Avenue, our properties appear to be located in a low-level valley now. I have included 3 references to approved fence variances, beginning with variance file A14-21. A question was raised by a Committee of Adjustment member whether a fence was required for the subdivision. You will notice that the Director of Planning did not answer the question, but instead offered information about the acoustic fencing. If this question had been answered and was clear at the time that a fence was required, perhaps the fence height could have been addressed in the zoning bylaw as has been done with other applications, saving the residents of the abutting properties money and aggravation in dealing with privacy and overlook concerns on an individual basis. The following information will provide further clarity into the matter of this requested variance on fence height and prove it is in line with neighboring and permitted variances. June 15, 2021, file number A14-21, subject property, 304 Main Street East, and then they've given links to the video recordings of the live stream video proceedings of these meetings. Second one is June 21, 2022, file number A23-22, subject property, 314 Main Street East. May 22nd, 2024, file number A19-24, subject property, lot 17, Terrace Drive. They've also given links to the applications. I would like to register for a Zoom link to participate electronically should any of our written comments need further clarification. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our comments on this request for variance. We would appreciate receiving a copy of the notice of decision with respect to this application, and if you require clarification on the information provided, please contact, and they've given their contact information. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delhara, for reading that, and Member Kevin for suggesting that that be read. And in thinking of that, is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak to this? Okay, up front, please come to the lectern and state your name and address for the records, please.
Is this on? Elizabeth Spoja. I live at 13 Lawrence Avenue, next door to John. I can see his point of wanting privacy. He has a nice pool, and you need some privacy when you're out in the pool. We live next door. We have no privacy. We look straight into the neighbors' windows. Their decks are higher than the fence, the top of the fence. They are higher than the top of the fence. The barbecues sit on top of the decks, and that's all the room there is. But there is absolutely no privacy. They can see everything in our yard, and I can see everything through their windows. I can watch 3 TVs from my house. It's not nice we've been very lucky to live there so long and have privacy, but I can see the point of John needing privacy to go into his pool. And if I had a pool, I would want privacy. But the 3 pools on the street, there are just 3, and 2 are getting high fences, so why can't he?
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come and speak? You were up next. Behind Mr. Wolf. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Elise Bulligan. I am with my husband, Jerry Bulligan. We live on the lot 15, if you can look at the pictures, and or 121 Terrace Drive. So on 11 Lawrence, they already started the extension on their fence, like you saw on the pictures. The paper pictures were taken from our backyard. These are our pictures. So you can see that from our point of view, we can see the backyard because it's full of trees. So that's one thing. So from our point of view, they have privacy with all the trees. And their property extend on 4 other properties on our street. So if you look at the map, we are lot 15, just by Mike. And their extension would go in our backyard on 3 foot of our fence. So imagine to have this patchwork of our fence, the second fence behind that it's a wire fence, right? And we would have a part of 11 Lawrence fence in our backyard. So you can imagine the nice view we would have, right? So this is why we oppose to this variance. I don't know if Jerry, you would like to add something? And if you can look at the pictures, you can see the blue lines. So the blue lines will be their extension. So we would have 3 different heights of fence in our very, very already small backyard.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else? You'd like to come up and speak? Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Nola Cartner, and I live at 12 Lawrence Avenue, which is on the west side of the road. So our house looks at Spoge's across the road. John is next. We see the new development behind us. From my windows in my house, and most of the houses on Lawrence Ave are bungalows. So you know what level I'm at. Just looking out bedroom windows towards, I can look in the windows of those new houses. And as Mrs. Spoja said, we can watch free TV. And you can see people walking around. You can see everything from the windows at our house. We have a front porch that we have always enjoyed sitting out on. And we enjoy meeting all the new neighbors that come with their dogs and things like that, and we're happy to have new neighbors, but the privacy of Lawrence Avenue is gone. On our side, we've just always been so thankful we have the church behind us, as they are absolutely the best neighbors you could ever ask for in a neighborhood. And I'm not saying these new people aren't going to be, but the privacy concerns of them on that side are terrible. To me, whatever fences had been put up should be gone, and there should be 10-foot high fences from the start of Terrace, all the way down to the bottom, because everybody is being affected. Some of us have been there over 50 years, and we have always said Lawrence Ave is the best street neighborhood in the town, and we'd like to still believe that. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Yep.
Good evening. My name is Julie Messina. I live at 125 Terrace, which is a lot 13. I stand in support of both my neighbors, Elise and Mike. I definitely agree with the lady also that just spoke. Privacy obviously is an issue for all of us. We're affected by it as well, being a little bit higher up. We are aware that people can see into our yards as well. But the one thing I do agree with what you said, I do think the fencing is a problem. And if you're going to start considering increasing the height, I think it really seriously needs to be considered that it's done all the way down the street. I have a picture. I think you asked Mike what it looks like when the two fences are a different height. And as Elise pointed out, that if you grant this variance, she's going to have 3 feet of fencing on her side, and it will be only 3 feet of fencing. And it just, if you don't mind, I can show you a picture of what that looks like. So that's the view from my yard. This is Mr. Wolf's yard. This is Miss Gibbons' yard, where the fence, she does have a variance there.
If you speak, sorry, if you're speaking, you should be, for the record.
Okay.
This is being recorded.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can, okay, in this picture, so the Gibbons household, which is adjacent to Mr. Wolf, has been granted a variance. There is a 10-foot fence, and it looks ridiculous because it's so high and it stops dead at the end of her property. So my neighbor to my other side is now short on the fence, so his whole property, he's got 10 foot and then it drops to a 6 foot. And that's exactly what's going to happen to Elise if you grant this variance. The other thing with Mr. Wolf's property, from my point of view, the whole backyard is treed. So I don't see anything in his backyard. I do agree that the top of our decks are fence height, absolutely, but just to give you some context, our decks are so small, we're not able to entertain on them. We are not able to hang out on them. They are big enough basically to put 2 lawn chairs. And because of the direction of the doors on our patio, you either have a slider or a French door, we're unable to put chairs facing outwards. So any chairs that we have on our decks are facing inwards towards our house. So if we are sitting on our back decks, we're not facing Lawrence Avenue homes, we're facing the back of our houses. So I just want you to take that into consideration when you're considering this. It is an issue. I do respect Mr. Wolf's position, but also for the rest of us, it's not good. We've got the 2 fences, and we're going to have a whole line of fences bordering on Lawrence that go high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. It's just not very cosmetically appealing, and in my opinion, in this particular case, it's not necessary because he does have a very heavily treed yard, and I cannot see into his backyard from my house at all. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this application? No? Any committee members have questions at this time? No? I may have a question. I think I know the answer, but to Walter, and I'll pull him up in a minute. Walter, there's been talk about the fence needing to be this high for the whole string of houses. Is this something that would be addressed at some point, or is the bylaw set at the 2 meters for height of fences, and variances would have to be applied per kind of on an individual basis for the houses?
Yeah, the latter. Individual, the maximum is 2 meters, and any fence construction beyond 2 meters requires a variance. And again, if there's agreement with all of the landowners in that area, and if there's concerns about aesthetics, and if it's reasonable to provide screening between the lower properties and the higher properties, because it goes both ways. They could all agree to collectively apply for variances and build the fences themselves, so it can be aesthetically pleasing on both sides. But again, that's something for the abutting property owners to deal with.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf, oh, go ahead, Dylan.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just while we have town staff available. So I'm just curious, so when new developments like this on this sort of scale are contemplated, is sort of grading vis-a-vis the existing or the abutting properties taken into consideration by the town or as a condition of the builder? Like I'm just, and I know that sort of fencing is probably an afterthought or it's something that the builder just sort of, does. But, I'm just thinking, is this sort of a learning moment for the town when, as intensification increases? Like I must admit, like was this the third or this is the fourth minor variance? So, we could potentially have more, which affects, both sides of the, the coin, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes, it was an issue through the public meetings. There were concerns about overlook by the existing landowners on Lawrence Avenue with the construction of new dwellings immediately behind them. The issue of overlook was partially addressed through site-specific zoning regulations for the lots that back onto Lawrence Avenue. They're restricted by not permitting second-story windows to face west. So there's an existing zoning regulation on all those lots not permitting windows to face west onto the Lawrence Avenue lots. So essentially all you have is main floor windows and basement windows looking west. But the grades themselves, there was a lot of effort put into by the designing engineers and the town engineering staff to keep the grades as low as possible. But the grades that were achieved were required in order to obtain proper fall or flow for sanitary sewers and storm sewers and whatnot. So again, there was a conscious effort to keep the grades as low as possible, but it worked out the way it worked out, unfortunately. And with the implementation of the site-specific zoning regulation to not permit second-floor windows to face west on the new houses.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf, would you like to come and speak to anything that we've heard tonight?
This letter I received tonight says, first we disagree since the height will not be constant with fences shared between other neighbors. My neighbor immediately to the north has a 3 feet elevation in their existing 6-foot fence. That would be Mr. and Mrs. Gibbons who wrote the letter. The one gentleman indicated that it'll make him feel closed in. He bought a small lot. If he wants to increase the size of his lot, take his fence down and just put 2 side things and use my fence as his fence. I feel closed in is not a valid reason not to allow it to proceed. The critters and nonsense between the 2 fences, the builder put it up. My fence was there first. The builder put up this fence at possibly an inadequate height. If the builder had done what the builder could have done we wouldn't be here today, right? The one speaker said the appearance of the height was not appropriate. The appearance of the heightened fence was not appropriate. Well, that's an opinion. I don't know if it's shared. Apparently, we have 3 people on the street that have done what I'm asking to do, and they're not being sued for anything. It's appropriate enough, I guess. And I would like to thank Nova and Liz for speaking on my behalf, and Annette for sending in her letter. Thank you.
Yep, thank you again for speaking. I'm going to turn it to the committee. Do we have a resolution that we can read out? Yeah, go ahead, Fabia.
Sorry, I always forget. May it be resolved that minor variance application A3124 for 11 Lawrence Avenue to permit a maximum privacy fence height of 3.048 meters, whereas a fence height of 2 meters is permitted per section 4.36 in zoning bylaw 1445 as amended, be approved. No conditions.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Dylan is going to second that. Okay. Can we take a vote for the record? So all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? No, I have none. Okay, so it's been approved following the 20-day appeal period that follows this meeting. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, we need to get Adam back in here. So let's invite Adam back into the meeting now that this application is complete. Now we have some other business, and everyone is welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go if you're complete your business for what you came today. But again, everyone is allowed to stay. So for any other business, I'd like to announce that member Mottershead has a notice of motion. Would you please be able to read your notice of motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the introduction date is today, September 17th, 2024. Subject is OLT municipal submission packages for council. Whereas decisions of the committee adjustment are subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, whereas in considering these appeals, council receives a recommendation report from the planning department on what position council should take on the appeal. And whereas the material supplied from the committee with these reports is generally limited to copies of the planning correspondence, committee minutes, and notice of decision, and whereas council does not receive a copy of the OLT municipal submission form M1 and required documentation, brackets the municipal submission package related to the appeal, including a list of oral and written submissions from the public, and whereas this limited information considered in council in closed session with planning staff present and no equal representation from the committee, and whereas this does not present council with a fulsome and balanced view of facts on important legal matters facing the municipality, therefore be it resolved that for any OLT appeal of a committee adjustment decision that the Secretary Treasurer be directed to forward a copy of the completed municipal submission package to council for the closed session consideration, and further that a copy of this resolution as passed be forwarded to council as correspondence. I acknowledge this notice of motion will be given consideration at the October 15, 2024 committee adjustment, but I'd like to put a motion on the floor to waive the rules of procedure with a 2/3 vote to have that immediately considered.
Okay, so we have a notice to suspend the rules of, what's it?
Procedure.
Procedure, thank you. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Kevin will second, okay. So we're going to take a vote. We need 2/3, 4 out of 5 members must vote affirmative for this to be sustained. So all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? I see none. Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with the motion here. Yeah, I guess just looking at the past, our past appeals that have gone to council, I'm just concerned that, you know, like I say, they go into closed session, they're not getting a balanced view, especially with the recent decision on 30 Viking. I'm sure most of you have seen the email that it has been appealed. And I think I was kind of shocked, actually. I think, the public came out, and it's not about reacting, just a public reaction. I think they brought forth a lot of land use planning reasons. And those would be captured in the municipal submission package. And as far as I know, that doesn't get to council. They're not seeing this. So they're not seeing these oral and written comments. I mean, they could watch the meeting, I granted that, but with some of their agendas being hundreds of pages, I don't expect them all to, on top of that, end up watching our meetings. So I think they kind of rely on what's given to them, and I think the more information that's given to them, the better decision making they can do. Thank you.
I have a question for, I guess it's, who's the chair? Who's acting?
Technically, I'm still the chair, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Just maybe through you, Mr. Chair, what is the OLT Municipal Submission Form M1, and what is all in that package? And who's required to fill that out?
That would be, it goes to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee, and maybe she can elaborate a little more, but it includes the minutes, the oral written submissions, I think notice decision, and I believe they can attach other documentation. I'm not sure what other mandatory stuff there is, but there's a checklist that actually is on the form, and it says for minor variance that they have to supply this. Also a copy goes to OLT of the I guess the live stream.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a video recording too included in that?
Yes.
Do we have any questions from the committee members about the notice of motion put forward by committee member Mottershead?
So just for clarification then through the chair, you're asking that the package that's normally compiled, put together and sent off to the OLT first go to council, like as an interim step, so that they can consider whether they would support or not support, I guess, an appeal.
Yeah, through the chair. I think the statutory requirement, and the Secretary Treasurer can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 14 days, has to be submitted, I think, within 14 days of the last day of appeal. So generally, I think when these reach council, that's already expired. So it's already been sent to the OLT. So it's already done and prepared.
Thank you. Would be anybody in the public or staff? Walter, would you like to make a comment on this?
I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I guess maybe through the staff, through the chair, Walter, because only a homeowner or the municipality or another government body, I guess, can appeal it. If the homeowner does not like our decision and appeals it, what role would council play in that as a third party? I mean, it's then up to the owner to advance his own appeal, right? Call evidence and experts if he wishes to, but what role does the municipality play at that point? Like, are they just an interested party, or are they concerned about costs? Or, I mean, they're not really party to the appeal. It's the committee's decision that was appealed. So I'm just curious what, from town's perspective, how they view an appeal by an owner on a decision that this committee made.
Right, thank you. Through you, Chair, the committee has, or council has, three options. They can either support the committee's position, they could support the position of the appellant, or they cannot, through representation at the hearing, or they could just not participate at all. They have those three options.
So,
and again, further to that, Member Motters had said, the committee has access to all the information, including video recording of the hearing. If they feel They don't have to look at it. They don't have to read any reports, but they can if it's available to them if they feel they want to see it.
Any further questions from the committee? I see none. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking, amendment, I don't know if it would be worth amending, and I guess it would be up to council to say that one of us, either chair, vice chair, or designate, be available for questions if they're going to go consider something. Whether I don't know if they can invite us in or if they can direct question, open, closed session, whatever. I don't know if that's something, because like I say, in case there's something that's not captured.
Okay, so an amendment, you're proposing an amendment that the council has the option to call up a member of this committee to speak to the applications or the process that occurred that night. Do we have any comments on that from the committee? Go ahead, Walter.
I think that's highly inappropriate. Once the committee makes its decision, you're out. You're out of the picture. You have no status at all.
I would kind of concur with that, although I think it would be important for council to receive the whole package. So this is a good idea that they're given the whole package, including the video stream and all that information. So I agree with Walter. We're out. We've made our decision. We're not going to go anywhere to defend that decision. It's like an appeal of a lower court. They don't ask the lower court, well, why'd you come up with this idea? They read the evidence, the decision, and then they make a new one based on that. So I think it's good that council is required to get that and consider it. They can watch the video stream. They can get an idea of the flavor of the meeting and what was said, plus they'll have all the written. So I think that's a fulsome package that they should have, but not ask us to attend and defend our decision. I mean, I would agree with that.
And again, just for the record, because it's the OLT hearings are de novo hearings, which means that whatever evidence is presented at the hearing, plus the full body of the evidence that was submitted for your consideration, they have. Also discussions about strategy, about whether or not the municipality will participate in the hearing. Those are always held in closed session. You would not be able to participate in any of those discussions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So then the notice of motion that member Mottershead has put forward as not to be amended. If there is no further discussion on this, do I have a decision or a resolution? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Do I have a resolution from anybody? Approved. Okay, so what do we? Oh, who seconded? Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Let's vote. Okay, all in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? I see none. It's approved. And does this follow a 20-day appeal? No. Okay, sounds good. So now I'm going to turn the chair back over to to Member Mottershead, who will relinquish his chair duties.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm the chair now. Is there any further business of the committee? Any comments, concerns, questions? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is October 15th, 2024. Thank you, everybody.
Recording stopped.